Fragments of silicon. Take them one at a time.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Welcome to our 16th season finale. Jeez.
17th.
16 season. Is it 17?
Yeah.
Like, huh. I guess I lost count there along the way. Like, or I might have been thinking of the other show, which
Possibly.
It's like it blurs a bit together. But the more important point is it's our season finale. So after this show, we'll be taking a break for a few weeks, and then we'll be back with a new season. But with that in mind, let's get to the news. Penny, why don't you start us off this week?
Well, I've still not heard back from my sleep clinic about getting my CPAP machine replaced, and I've been calling the office manager a lot. Just keep getting voicemails, so hopefully hear back something tomorrow, or I'm going to keep calling again. This is what happens when you ignore my calls and emails for over a month.
That sounds harrowing.
Yeah, especially because with the problem being my CPAP's motor wearing out, it could literally fail at any time. So that's joyful. Yesterday I got my new knee braces. Yay!
Have you had the chance to actually use them?
They told me to use them for a little bit, like an hour or two each day to start out. They're kind of a pain to get on and at least get on because they don't have any like clips or anything like that. So whenever I want to put them on, I need to redo all the straps. So it's hopefully I get, a little bit better at it. But I guess we'll find out. I guess for next week, since we're going to be off air, is when I talk to the doctor about, seeing about if I am a candidate for a baclofen pump. So that's going to be interesting. And as far as gaming goes, I finally said screw it and beat Sonic Killers on the Switch. Not a big fan of how they remixed the last boss theme, but that's just me.
The original way or the way it was did they change it in the remake?
They changed it a little bit in the remake. And yeah, so that's a thing. And yeah, I think that's it on my end.
All right. Well, Alex, it's your go.
Not too much going on around here. My parents are taking a short summer trip, or not short summer, spring trip. So I'm preparing to hold down the house. I had a leftover burger and put an egg on it and some stuff for dinner tonight, and that was good. And probably going to take a long weekend to do some cleaning and things. I don't know what else. There's a Splatfest this weekend, I believe, for Aliens versus, do you believe in aliens, Bigfoot, or the Loch Ness Monster? I took Team Aliens because I think it's the most likely, but also because like almost all my friends were, so That makes it convenient for playing together during the time of it. Although I think there's something else going on this weekend too.
I think there's a new Terra raid in Pokemon.
There's that. There is also that, but I was thinking. I think one of the groups that I follow online is doing a special stream of some sort, but I don't remember the details. And otherwise, I think things have pretty much been going on as usual.
Okay. So anything else?
I think that's all.
All right. I guess it's my go. All right. So my news is not much this week. It's just the month of April is just going to be filled with a lot of family functions. Let's see. This weekend I have to go down to my brother's place, which is turned from the celebration of my youngest nephew's birthday into that plus Easter celebration. Like, so, yes. So yeah, that looking forward to that. Celebrating my mother's birthday, and then the uncle's coming in the middle of the month. Really, that's about it. So yeah, not a lot going this week. Sometimes that happens. Right. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast, and joining us this week is Ed Annunziata. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
Do you want me to give my news?
Well, I think this is kind of how the interview will go in a roundabout way. Right. So how we like to get to start things is we ask this question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
What got me into I was a young boy, and I could control something, like a little remote control.
Uh-huh.
Like when I was a kid, the remote control things were like an airplane that you could swing around with a string. It had a motor, and it would fly, but you would have to hold the string that was like tied to its wing, and you just like that was like a drone. It pretty much sucked. And what was your question again? I forgot.
What got you interested in video games?
So control. So it's fun to control things. So as soon as you see a little blip on the screen, and you can point up, down, left, right, it's fun to control things. So as soon as I was able to control a video game, I realized that I wanted to make a video game, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Of course it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And at what point did you arrive at that destination?
I'm almost there, actually. Not quite there. But it's been a long journey, but a fun one. I just started, and it's really easy because everybody has a computer. So I had a computer, learned how to make a little guy walk across the screen. And then after that, it was all in.
Okay.
Try
it. And how did you first get into the industry?
All right, so early in the game days, in the 8-bit days, me and a friend of mine made a video game and sold it. It was published, and it was like, hey, you could make money by making games. So started making games, made a little bit of money, and then used that little game that I made with my friend Mike Marsko. He did most of the work. I just did a little bit, but I learned, and then I used that game as my resume to get a job with this company that was making educational games for Apple II computers. So I got to make a whole bunch of educational games on the Apple II in a programming language called 6502 assembly language. And lo and behold, you could use the same programming language to make video games, which I kept wanting to do. Then finally got an opportunity to move to California. Of course, this was all in New York. There were not a lot of good, computer game or video game jobs in New York at the time. So I jumped at the chance to come to California, which I did. And then Sega hired me. And then I was able to pivot from educational games to game games, and made a whole bunch of games and just kept making them, and still am.
Well, I mean, it's good that you're still living the dream after all this time.
Thank you.
No problem. And let me see here. So, what, I don't know if you know, but what exactly did you produce that made Sega take a shine to you?
I produced a what? That take a shining to me?
Yeah,
What
like, what what made Sega hire you, basically?
Oh. Well, so they didn't hire me to really. They just hired. It was just a job, and I got hired. And then once I was in there, I was like, "Hey, I want to make a game. Like, look at these games."
Okay,
I've been working on these. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Constantly. I was like, they almost fired me. I was pitching games so hard, and they were like, "Here's a list of games. Get these done." That was what they wanted me to do. So I got them done. But every opportunity I had, I was like, "Well, you see, you're a dolphin. No inventory, no guns, no pockets, no scuba divers. You're just a dolphin." And they kept shooting it down, and eventually did it, and then got to make it. And then after that game, then it was a lot easier. I just basically got to make it.
Yes, I'd imagine. So, Echo the Dolphin was your first pitch at Sega.
Well, no, because early on, so I showed a demo of the game when they interviewed me to a whole bunch of guys, and they didn't give a shit about it. They were like looking at their fingers. I was like, okay, you're not interested in that. And then I just showed them something else. So I was pitching, like I had a whole bunch of games. So whatever seemed to resonate at the moment, I would push. And then I, always circle back to the dolphin. Once I had one guy believe in it at Sega, it was a lot easier because I had somebody at my back. Because when nobody likes it, then you don't stand a chance. But if you got one guy, you can turn it into two. And eventually, I was able to get it through. Actually, I didn't do anything. Some guy, Al Nielsen, said, "We should do this," to Tom Kalinske. These are guys that were running Sega at the time. Mm-hmm. And I said, "We should do this." Okay. That was it. Let them do it. Leave them alone. And I just ran with it. And here we are.
Yes, indeed.
30 effing years later. 30. How old are you guys?
I'm actually 30, so that's kind of funny.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm 36. Adam's what? A bit older than that.
Adam's pushing 200 at this point?
Adam's not 200 because that Mac can't be 200.
Yeah, no. I am. Yeah, I'm a bit older than that. And I
Sorry, didn't mean to
remember
put you
those
on the spot.
days.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
I'm like,
I'm 60. 60. 60.
yeah,
60.
yeah, yeah. Time it marches on.
Yes, it's
Like,
relentless.
yeah, until we figure out how to master time, I guess, which isn't a thing really. But anyway, I suppose getting back to Echo the Dolphin.
Mm.
What was the drive behind creating this game? What made you really, really want to make a game about a dolphin?
Oh man, what a great question. So, there's really two things, and I don't really remember what was first, but one is the control of the dolphin, and especially surface interaction. So, you're either buoyant or you're flying, with gravity. Gravity to buoyancy, sine wave in and out of the water. That mechanism and the play the control of that I loved. And I knew immediately it was great. Just that, the surface interaction. That's one. And then the second part is I really got into the science of sea mammals because of my previous job and was really into the idea of echolocation and, coupled with a play mechanic, an action mechanic, but it's a character, like a character that's like a vehicle at the same time. Because when you get the dolphin going, and we had prototypes where you could mess with the gravity and the viscosity of the water and the momentum and inertia and all that stuff, and you could tune it to where it was a lot of fun playing Super Dolphin. At some point, we had to take advantage of that. But yeah, what was the question again? Yeah, dolphins. Yes, dolphins.
Yeah. Well, the question is, what made you so interested in
So
dolphins?
the play mechanic and then just the animal, like just the amazing things they do. And like once you start learning about them and you start thinking about them, and I was lucky to get involved with this whole educational thing about whales, back in my previous job. So I learned a ton of shit and thought about it a lot, and then applying it to the dolphin game, it just sort of kept unfolding in my head. You know what I mean? Like once it's working, and then you just keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it, and it just all fit together really nicely. As weird as it is to me, it's like totally normal. The whole aliens and time travel coming in with a dolphin game. Of course, that's totally normal. And it just came together so nicely. And that's only because nobody knew I was even doing it. They were like, just let them do it, leave them alone. And I got to do that. And then at the end, they were like, hey, this is pretty good. Why don't we put some scuba divers in it, or with harpoons? I'm like, no. And they listened. They're like, okay, fine. And that was great. It was really good editorial experience back in those days.
I mean, I suppose so, because I'd imagine there would be companies, especially at the time, where they would have insisted on more. How do I put this? Actiony elements. I mean, I know it's an action game and all that, but God, we're talking about the early '90s here, so talking about a lot of games are shoot, bang, bang.
Well, what would you do to the dolphin to make it more shoot, bang, bang?
Well, actually, you do eventually kind of get the ability to use your sonar as a shoot, but it's a little bit later on. But yes, dolphins are generally lacking in limbs that enable use of
trigger
items.
pulling.
I mean, I
I
mean,
did see a lot of like sort of like fan art where the dolphins wear exoskeletons embellished with mechanical arms and guns and shit like that. And it comes off pretty cool. So yeah, maybe you're right. Damn it. Should put a bazooka in there somehow. And then, that movie Day of the Dolphin, it was like, okay, let's talk to the dolphins. Hey, we could talk to them. Now, let's strap a bomb to its head and have it go under a ship. Like, great.
Golix, you do know there's an official mod for Echo where he's packing heat. It's your fault, right?
Yeah. I think that's cool.
Oh
Right.
no.
Anyway,
There was some shooter game where there's a character and it's beautiful. There's a character that has a glass spherical head with a dolphin inside of it, and then mechanical legs and arms and a gun, of course. Did you see that? It was like maybe
I think I remember a comic book with something
slightly
like that.
pre-pandemic.
yeah.
Maybe I drink.
I
Probably hallucinating. It's ketamine
all I-
or something like that.
I can think of is Into the Hunt.
Does anybody listen to this? Do you guys have like people who listen?
Yeah.
Or-
We have most of our audience is to the VOD
Quiet
afterwards
is-
rather than live.
Yeah,
But
Siblings?
yes.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody out there. Got all your fans all psyched now. They're all screaming.
Like, anyway.
You guys have
so,
the best interview style ever, I have to say. The best.
we like to try, or seem like we don't try, like, if that makes any sense. Like, this casual conversational style really helps things flow, so to speak. Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
And it allows for a lot of wiggle room creatively. Like, I just rambled on for how long? I mean, you guys are geniuses.
I'm like, we used to be a lot stricter with the format, but that was actually pretty
Like,
prohibitively
keep your guests on track.
like,
At least I'm talking about games.
we do eventually get back on track. It just sometimes takes a while. Like, for example, now, who did you develop Echo the Dolphin with, so to speak? Like,
All right.
who is the team?
All right. So this is the beginning of the story is a game called California Games by a company called Epix. It's with a Y and an X. And they have this really shitty collection of mini games called California Games. And it has like, a hacky sack, frisbee toss, skateboard, half pipe, and some other shit, right? So I had to produce the Genesis version. It's like, okay, you got half a megabyte to work with. I'm like, how much? Because I was used to diskettes. See, on a 5 1/4 inch diskette, you could have more than half a megabyte. And it's like, no, I can't make a game for fucking half a megabyte. But they insisted, and they wanted to sell it for $50 too. So it's like, holy shit! And they were like, find the cheapest guys you could possibly find. We don't want to spend any money on this. So my job was find the cheapest developers in the world, and I did. I found them, and they were in Hungary, and the name of the company was NovaTrade. And I was like, "Oh, guys, you made how many games? 80 games on like the Timex Sinclair and the BBC Acorn and all kinds of like weird old style computers, and some flavor of Nintendo. What's it called? something engine. I don't know, some game engine or something way back then, 8-bit, Nintendo-like platform. I don't even know what kind of games these
PC
guys
Engine?
made. PC Engine, that's it. Thank you. Good Googler. Anyway,
It's a Google.
so I'm like, okay, these guys are cheap. And there's no email. They had a telex machine. Oh, actually, no one had email. This is early 90s. And they had a telex machine, but they were cheap. So I'm like, all right, you dudes, you work on this, and we got to cut down the game because we couldn't fit it all to 4 events. So I picked the events that I'm like, work on these, and I gave them whatever I thought to like kind of enhance it. The first build I get from these guys, I just stayed in my office all night. I could not believe how mind-blowing the pixel art was. I was like, wait a minute. Like everything I've seen up until then looked like shitty Genesis games on a TV. And I'm looking at the background of California in the half pipe event. And I'm like, how did they do this? So the kid that did it, his name is Zsolt, Zsolt, was maybe 16, and he's an Amiga demo artist or Commodore 64
That explains a
demo
lot right
artist.
there.
boom, right? And
Yep.
this kid was mind-blowingly good. So it wasn't just him. So then it was like, wait, because I've seen many good pixel artists. There's still something pretty good about it. Like it almost was like it wasn't I'm not looking at a Genesis. I'm looking at something else. That's how it felt. So then I figured out that it was actually Laszlo who enabled Zsolt to paint on the Genesis live to a TV. So the kid with a mouse is painting, looking at a TV, which we will all be looking at when we play the game. That's like the first time any artist painted on the TV live for a video game, as far as I know. And Zsolt, being the kind of pixel artist or demo kid that he was, he actually used the blur of NTSC. There's like a little smudge the pixels have. And as an artist, he used that to compose the pictures that we see, or the images, or the pixels in Echo, and also California Games. All right, so I'm sorry that was long-winded, but you don't really care. You could cut it. Just cut it, like, or yeah, I know. Just play me at 1.2 speed. Anyway, actually, play the whole thing 1.2 speed. Believe me, people like it better that way. So when I figured all that out, in parallel, I'm like, come on, guys, Echo the Dolphin, no, Echo the Dolphin, no, Echo the Dolphin, no. And then finally, they're like, I'm like, okay, EA offered me a job, I gotta go. And they're like, okay, what are you gonna do? What do you want to do if you want to stay? What do you got to do? I'm like, well, I need enough money for a car. I got a $10,000 bonus, and I need enough money to do a prototype for this stupid dolphin game that you hate. And they did it. They let me do it. And I guess who I hire? I run to Budapest, literally go to Budapest, and convince these guys that this is it. And once I had those two gentlemen that I just described previously, it was it. Everybody else, it all fell into place, just like this incredible podcast you guys are doing,
Right.
just all together, smooth, this flow of creativity.
Indeed. And how long did it take to make Echo the Dolphin?
Kind of a long time, because there were little prototypes, then bigger prototypes, and it just sits. And other projects take, it had to go from prototype to, I don't know, more than a year, maybe 2 years or less than 2 years. And also, there was a rush release version, and then there was a subsequent version. So there's like a super hard version, and then just plain old too hard version. So yeah, about a year. A lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards in that, because it's like, wait a minute, no guns. What are we gonna do? Go through a maze. Then what? Well, there you go.
Like, die a lot, from what I remember. Like, Echo the Dolphin was a hard game. Like,
it's a game. Your
yeah.
participation isn't trivial.
Yes, I suppose that is true. Like,
here's the perfect moment. I'm gonna find this. There was like some awesome gamer streaming Colibri, which is a hummingbird game that I made, and then he read my quote about one of the games, or maybe that game being way too hard, and I said, it's a game. Your participation isn't trivial, and he said that, and then he gets killed. And then he gets killed again, and then he gets killed again, and then he gets killed again, and then he makes it through, and the way he goes, yes! He forgot he was broadcasting. He was there for a moment, and the way he said yes, I knew it was the right difficulty right then. In the context of, apologizing is too hard. It was fun. A lot of fun. If you followed that, I don't know. Maybe I'm just babbling.
Don't think I've seen that, but I suppose I get the ethos, at least for the time. Like, I know such things are much more open to debate these days. Let's say, like, but that is neither here nor there.
What's the debate? I could clear everything up in theory, no?
I'm talking more about modern video games and what they can't.
What's the right way?
It's like, and difficulty levels and accessibility, and that. Yeah, that is a whole other kettle of fish, so to speak. Like, yeah, but those, what you're describing about definitely reminds me of Welcome to the Machine, like, and dying a lot. Like, but
how did
speaking
you
of
feel
that,
when you made it through? But how did you feel? Did you make it through? Did you ever make it through?
I did.
How did you feel when you made it through? Eventually, when you made it through, how'd you feel? How'd you feel?
Pretty angry, actually. Like,
well, now's your time to get even. 30 years later.
I'm like, well, that.
All right, man. Sorry.
Like, that is.
The fuck did I know? It was easy for me. And you know what? When you're done with the game is done. And then they put it on silicone. And then they put it on a boat. And then they put it on shelves physically. And it's like, hey, everybody, it's a little too hard. Oh, good. Let's update it. Let's do a hot fix. No, we're not going to do that, are we? We're not going to fix it, are we? That's the reality. It was like, once you made it was done forever. It was fucking horrible. And it was like, oh, everybody likes this dolphin game. Oh, well, right, we'll make one more version. Tweak it, make it a little easier. Don't want to make it too easy. Still way too hard. And the real problem is, it's fucking easy for me. It was easy for me. And I figure, like, I'm a dude, like 27 or something like this. I'm like an adult playing video games. I figure the kids are way better. Plus, they rent the games now in Blockbuster. They put down $2, get my Echo the Dolphin game that I had to kill people to make. And they beat it over the weekend, and they don't buy the game. And my game is a loser, and that's the end of me in the video game business. So fuck it, I'm gonna make it hard.
Not the only developer who's ever expressed such sentiments, I suppose, on this program.
And I mean, back
Plus, I was a kid. When this is.
Yeah, back in the
is
day,
me as
you
a
had
child,
to do it that
pretty much.
way.
I was younger than any of you guys on the call right now when I made this game. Just so you know. Significantly younger than some of you. So I'm just saying. But it's just a game. And it's only half a megabyte. That whole game. That's 50 hours of hating your life playing that game. 50 hours of doing that.
It's kind of crazy
hell.
how much you could fit into.
It's only half a megabyte. There's
into some
icons
small
on your
data
desktop
back then.
are bigger than that.
Nowadays there's all like, oh, it's all based on a common engine that has a whole bunch of resources that you don't actually need. Part of the way that the file sizes were so small was because everything was done like
one pixel at a time.
Yeah, in machine code, or like one step up from that.
1 byte at a time. Instructions are literally 1 byte.
Mhm.
Opcode, 1 byte. Operand, 2 bytes. 3 bytes. You tell the microprocessor what to do. Even I had an idea. Oh, I know what you could do when the dolphin is swimming up vertically. You only need to store half the dolphin because you could flip it and put it together. So there's only half the dolphin in the cartridge, and
That's
it's flipped.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. I said it to Lazo, and he said, "Good idea." I just played it back in my head like the DVR. Good idea. It was like Count Dracula telling me I did a good thing. It's awesome.
Right. And how difficult was communications during the development of Elka the Dolphin?
It was hard and then easy. It was hard and easy. It was easy when we're working on mechanics. It was hard to start, easy to work on the mechanics. Hard to communicate the level layout stuff, the level design, the puzzle elements. I use the term puzzle element. I don't know. That was like a bad sound. That was, when Echo gets hurt, that sound.
Right.
That was kind of like when I said, "Oh, I got a new puzzle element." It was like them hearing that sound. They hated it. Like following the rock to, the fight, the pressure, and things like that. So that was hard. But then it was solved by physical proximity. So I spent a lot of time there, and then I spent a lot of time here. Mm-hmm. And then we got it done. We had this beautiful lady. Her name was Brenda Friedman. She's Stephen Friedman's wife, and she was my contact. And she would just listen to me and then type it up and send it to those dudes with a telex machine. It's 110 baud. She'd have to stand there for a long time, check, and send my ramblings. It's fun. Thanks for taking me back, dudes.
Not a problem. And getting back to the Welcome to the Machine level, so for those who might not know, that's a reference to a Pink Floyd song. And I've always wondered, was there any kind of concern that Pink Floyd would sue over it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, imagine Pink Floyd suing over, like, they were playing Echo the Dolphin, and like the second to last level, they saw "Welcome to the Machine." Like, hold on a second, that's the title of one of our songs on one of our albums that we made. What was it? Previously, 15, 20 years previous to Echo the Dolphin. No,
it'd probably be more likely.
I wasn't worried.
It'd be more likely that the studio or something would.
Yeah, of course. No, I was not worried whatsoever.
But yeah, I think in that different of a context, I think there's no.
To me, I will tell them I tried so hard to get those guys to work with me on a number of games, including Mr. Bones. I wanted David Gilmour so bad. I was like, hardcore Pink Floyd. And Welcome to the Machine was me telling Floyd, I fucking love you, and I thought of all this shit while listening to your music. You know, that like Shine On You Crazy Diamond looped in my brain a million times while I was thinking about this Dolphin game. Like that one chord. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
That's one chord. It'd be cool if you dubbed it in right now. I just listen to that and think about all this shit. So yeah, it's a homage, not a ripoff.
Fair enough. I mean, especially given the context, it's like, you know, it's more literal. I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but you know,
in the song. Mm-hmm. Right, it is a machine designed to digest you.
Yeah.
And in the song, it's metaphoric. It's like it's a business designed to digest you.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, you've mentioned a bit about there are different versions of Echo the Dolphin, but not just sort of in releases, but like systems, because there are Sega CD versions of the Echo the Dolphin games.
No, 3DS versions of the 3D version of Echo the Dolphin.
Were they
pretty cool? Yeah. The 3D 3DS.
Oh yeah. But I'm wondering if you had any involvement with the Sega CD versions.
Yeah, I produced those.
Hmm.
Like I made all those little videos. I wrote those videos. Hired the guy, do the voice. I was very frustrated with the whole CD thing. So much memory, so slow and hard to use. It's annoying.
Do you remember the first generation of CDs, CD drives being fairly slow?
Yeah, and you had to seek. There was seek time. And what are you going to do? You're going to load and then display and then load. Or there's yellow book audio or red book audio. It's like, that's it. So it was just a Genesis game that had little videos and Spencer's beautiful red book audio. Thank goodness that's associated with it. Otherwise, it didn't need to exist, the CD version. But it was fun making them. And there's a lot of hidden stuff there, too. A lot of like little hidden animations and messages. And shit that I forgot.
So kind of the director's cut of Echo the Dolphin.
No.
Anyway, so what else did you end up making at Sega?
Let's see, I made the Hummingbird game, Colibri, and I made Mr. Bones. And I made I love the Marvel games, so I made Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. In my opinion, that was the first good Marvel game. I know that's very boastful, but all the previous games sucked. I don't even want to get into that. And then X-Men on the Genesis was awesome as hell. And then the Clone Wars, which was a sequel to that, which was, I don't know, it's more awesome than hell, but this game was. And then, Shakan the Forever Man, dude with two flaming swords. All he wants to do is to die. I love that. I love his goal is to die. The coolest thing in the world. Wait for the reboot on that one. And then I made 3 Dirty Dwarves. And on the Sega Saturn. Did I mention Mr. Bones? I think I did. I said that really early on. And what else to say? And then a bunch of other games that you never would have heard of, like 688 Attack Sub, which was cool. Put some 3D into that. Actual real-time 5 frames a second 3D in that game. That was an EA license. That was great. And Abrams Battle Tank. First true 3D game on a console. 16-bit Genesis. Circa 1992, I think. Abrams Battle Tank.
Genesis.
And then a bunch of games on the Master, not a bunch, like several games on the Master System, including Echo and Shikine and something else I forgot.
Oh,
And a couple things on the Game Gear. But by then I had some dudes working with me on my little team, and we were making more of the other platforms.
what was it like working on the Master System and the Game Gear?
Oh, great. Are you kidding? They were the best. They were very similar. Well, first, I love the Z80 processor. It was very similar to the 6502, which I was used to as a programmer. The Atari and the Apple computers are both 6502. And the Master System had a Z80 on it. And I was like, that's close. And so I liked it. And also sprites and, scrolling play fields. Those are the first GPUs. Sprites and scrolling play fields or scrolling character graphics are the first ever GPUs. And I effing love that because you could move a little man on the screen and you didn't have to erase his trail as you moved him like you had to do on the Apple II, for example. You had to do all that pain in the ass shit. On the Master System, you just had some sprites, you move them around. Even when they collided with each other, the Master System would tell you there was collision detection built in. It was great. And then that Z80 processor made it into the Genesis to control the sound, FM sound on the Sega Genesis. And then the Genesis 16-bit GPU, now we're talking bigger sprites, much bigger character graphics. Basically, it was Master System, but a little bit better, 16-bit better. And but still, cool shit. Lots of great hardware tricks. I mean, a lot of Echo 2, for example, are like these weird translucent bugs that the guys discovered. Like, oh, you can only do 512 colors possible. There's only 512 colors possible. No, wait a second. If you put a little layer of this semi-transparent, weird, buggy mode that this weird GPU has, you could tweak some of those colors so you actually display more than 512 colors. Woohoo! And nobody noticed, but I did, and the game looks great. Everybody likes it, so had to work. Whew. Man, you guys are easy to continuously talk over. Are you there? Is anybody
Yeah,
there?
we're here.
Oh, okay.
We're just, we are listening. Yeah. Like, all right. Yeah, so Mr. Bones and Three Dirty Dwarves. That was done at Sega Soft.
Yeah.
Like, and on the Sega Saturn. So, did you find the Sega Saturn to be an improvement on, say, making a game on the Sega CD?
Oh, no. I hated it with a passion. It was horrible system. And, it was obviously much more powerful than the Genesis or even the 32X. But not enough that you'd notice. It's like, it's supposed to be so much better, and it really wasn't, in my opinion. So, and plus, it was horrible to develop on. It was terrible. Hitachi processors? What? Literally rice cooker processors. That was a Sega Saturn, but there's two. And you know what it's like to have two processors? You have one game, but two processors. So it just makes everything all complicated. And, the graphics didn't look that good. It wasn't really 3D. It was like pseudo 2D, like the 3DO. I don't know if you guys know about that one. But it's just pixels being munged around. No 3D here, folks. And then PlayStation 1 comes out, smacks the crap out of the Saturn. Like, see?
Yep.
Very angry. Those are my games on that shitty system. That's the way I was feeling. God. But, and then, you get backed into a corner creatively. It's like you want to push the limit, but you can't. The right thing would have been, okay, what could this thing really do? And what kind of smoke and mirrors can we do to make it look really good, but not bring it to its knees? And that's, the good old smoke and mirrors of the video game business. Instead of that, like counting on actual horsepower and, GPU features that are fun to read about, but don't really work as well. Yeah, so I'm disgruntled 30 years later, 25 years later, something like
that. Yeah. Well, what can you do?
There was nothing we could do.
The Saturn was kind of locked into what it was. And yeah, having
four coordinate-based polygons and all.
Yeah, quads.
It taught me the word aliasing. The staticky, crackling aliasing of a rotating polygon.
Yep. Jagged edges for miles.
Jeez.
And
it would be cool to have like a cool indie game that somehow captures that look just for laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several that at least try to go for that style. It's not the most common thing, but I've definitely seen some games go for the low poly, usually more PlayStation 1 style.
Yeah, low poly. Saturn isn't low poly. That's the thing. It's just really 2D, bad 2D.
Yeah,
manipulation. Somebody just said something. It was skewing the polygon, just moving its points to make it look like there's a vanishing point. It's rotating in three-dimensional space, but it's not. It's just squishing.
Yeah.
Sucked.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Though Mr. Bones and Three Dirty Dwarfs, if nothing else, are really creative games.
Thank you. I love making them. Very much.
I should hope so. It's never good when you dislike a thing that you create, I think.
I think that's hard to do, actually. I hate this fucking thing that I'm making. Nobody does that.
I mean, there are circumstances where it rise, but it's usually not because of the game itself. It's more the circumstances around said game.
No.
Anyway, so that kind of precipitated your end at Sega. Can you go into why you left the company?
I was there 8 years. First of all, it was a glorious company, and I consider every single person there during the 8 years that I was there a direct member of my family, first generation family. That's how much I loved it. It was the best thing ever. But 8 years, time to go. I don't care who you are. And the other thing is to progress, to grow, to get a raise, a promotion would pull you further and further away from game development. So I could have been an executive VP of executives and sit in meetings all day.
Yeah, even if you're not rising to your
be
level of,
envious. Yeah.
even if
So
you're
there
not
you go.
rising to your level of incompetence, you're rising to your level of no longer doing what you wanted to be doing at the company.
I just fucking wanted to. I don't care what anybody says. I honed it down to a single statement. I just want to make games. And that's it. So I had to leave. And on my way out, I was like, hey, you guys need a developer to make some weird games? I could make them doubly weird. I was able to get some work with them, but then it was getting too weird. But, here I am.
Yeah.
Keep making games.
Yeah, and I think weirdness is more viable these days.
Yeah. I hope you're right. So I got that in space.
I mean,
I think
some of the
maybe
games.
my type of weirdness is like boring and passe now. That's not weird, Ed. You don't know what weird is.
Weirdness takes many forms. We have found. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, thanks to a robust indie scene, I think there's more room for weirdness than, the modern day AAA video game industry.
Well, they did give us Shower with Your Dad. That was pretty weird.
Yes.
I loved it. I gotta say. Cute little guy running around with Shower. Can't beat that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, did you review that game?
Or
was that something similar?
Dwarf Fortress. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I can't play it. No idea how to fucking play that.
No, it's a super cool idea. It's just
I
you
would
really have to
it.
have a lot of patience and
You
attention
have
to detail and patience for failure.
do you have 20 years to invest in a
See?
game? But yeah, or a game where you are a billiard ball and you explore a dungeon.
Yeah, can't.
That is a real game
lovely.
that actually exists.
That should exist. That just sounds beautiful.
It does exist.
Yeah.
We featured it on the show one day. It's
Ooh,
called
who
Billiard
made that?
Dungeon. I'm trying to remember the developer.
They could have come up with a better name. I have to say. It have to be something. It's just Billiard Dungeons. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, I guess in the age of Cocaine Bear, titles are better. They just simply say how it is. Leave all the creativity in the game.
yeah, true enough. There was that game Tumbleseed, which is a roguelike arcade game, based off of a mechanical arcade game. Yeah, Moab Gaming.
Love it.
Yeah, like I said, there's all sorts of weirdness out there.
Yeah. God bless it. All of it.
Yeah. And I suppose, speaking of such things, going back to your particular brand of weird, you then got involved with a game called Tiny Tank.
Yeah.
I might be the only person that remembers it.
Oh, jeez, thanks. All right. Yeah, so Tiny Tank. Yes. Do you have a specific question, or you want me just to simply ramble on about Tiny Tank? Because I will.
I suspect both will occur.
Okay.
But
predictable.
All
right, so it's Tiny Tank. Tiny Tank. The killing machine that thought he could. I love that. I love that idea. And back when the idea occurred to me, I love this song. Can't remember what it is now. I think it was a Michael Jackson song. And I just imagined this little tank, just really, literally a tiny tank, meaning, a military vehicle tank, not the thing in your car filled with gasoline.
Mm.
But it's alive, like a robot. And as it's driving, listening to the music, it's bopping to the beat with its treads. You know, its treads are like kind of like its shoulders, and it's like the top of its head and its nose. It's the 80 millimeter cannon, and I could all of a sudden see a character, and I loved it, of course. And it's the it's a character and a vehicle. So from a control mechanism perspective, that had a lot of great things. Like you could drive, but you could jump. And so I love that it was both at the same time. And then once that kind of gelled, once Tiny Tank became like a little character, not just a little war machine, the concept of a war, because part of tiny stuff, nobody knows this because nobody played this game, but one day if you ever hear anything about this game, one thing you might learn about this game, if you ever see it or play it or talk to anybody who's ever played it or heard of it, one of the things you do with this game is you collect the positronic brains from fallen enemies. So if you kill another tank, the drop will be a brain, and you pick it up and you put it into your inventory. And as you equip yourself with guns, you could assign brains to them. And when they had brains, they start shooting at shit on their own. So when you go into an area that just fucks you up, and you know how hard I make these games, these are really fucking hard. You put enough brains on your guns all around your body, and you just cruise through. You focus on what you want to focus on, and your brains, your assigned brains, will take care of the rest. And that felt so good. Plus, like I said, he jumps, he strafes, and if you do a jump, and then to the right or left, he'll tumble strafe while shooting. He's a tank, but it still feels like a little character. And then to boot, as you're playing, he will turn his head, look right at you, and comment on how you're controlling him. So he was autonomous. He's alive. And I'm sorry, I'm very proud of this fucking game and this character. And to me, the high point was when in the New York Times there was this beautiful girl, Hertz. Fuck, I can't remember her first name. Wrote a review about Tiny Tank, and she compared Tiny Tank to the Iron Giant. And I love the Iron Giant. And when I read that, I almost cried, because he is like the Iron Giant in a way. He's a war machine that has a personality, and that's what the Iron Giant is. And I love the Iron Giant. So I was like, oh my God, she gets it. And she said it's a sophomoric Iron Giant with the personality of Bugs Bunny. And I could have just died or quit the video game business right then. I was like, okay, I'm successful. I'm like the best. And then retired or died right then. So, and then, then the PlayStation 1 just died, and no one ever knew that game existed.
I
Thanks for
remember there
letting me
was
talk about it for 15 minutes.
It's not a problem. I do remember there was some sort of publisher problem with the game. Like it was supposed to be published by.
Yeah, Sony bought it from so MGM was like, "Hey, everybody, we're going to make video games," and then it was like really hard, and it cost a lot of money, and they were like, and they were trying to weasel out of it, and they sold everything to Sony. Sony picks up everything, pennies on the dollar. One of those things were Tiny Tank. And then once I got to talk to the Sony guys, I was like, come on, guys. Look how cool it is. Look at the brains. Look at all this shit. It's a character. It's a vehicle. It's Tiny Tank. It's like the Iron Giant. Come on. So convince them to get behind it. The game is in 7 or 5 languages. A lot of languages. All the songs are even performed in those languages. Very proud of that. And it's a great game, man. Wait for the reboot.
I mean, Does Sony still have rights to Tiny Tank?
As long as I let them. No, I'm just kidding. I gotta wait till they age out, and then I gotta take it away. There's a U.S. copyright law, thank God. But it takes a lot of time. I'll get them back. Reboot all the games.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to see that game re-released, especially since, speaking of more viable markets, definitely it's more viable for classic games these days. Like,
yeah,
and especially with games getting remastered left and right.
I don't know. My opinion about games is all games are great. Like there's no games that I hate. I love all games, even the shitty free-to-play mobile games. I fucking love them. They're brilliant, even though they're slimy. But I love them. I love all games because they're like little universes that run and exist, and people make them, and they're always charming. Even the shitty hard ones, like the ones I made, that everybody hates, are still charming and lovely artistically. So all games, in my opinion, deserve to be played and everybody deserve because they are fucking.
You're breaking up a bit there.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, not sure what happened. Yeah.
What happened? I don't know what happened. I just kept rambling.
You were breaking up in the way that it usually happens because someone's connection lags briefly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it seems to be better now.
Yeah.
Good.
Technology.
Anyway, I was just saying all games are great. Don't be a game snob. They're all good. All games.
Mm-hmm.
I love them all.
I mean, it's a good position to take, I suppose. Not one we can particularly take because we review games and we do have to point out the imperfections of a particular title. But
I'm not saying all games are perfect. I'm just saying they're in their imperfection. They're just fucking awesome. We're lucky to have them, every one of them.
Yes,
in my opinion.
I'm sure there's room for debate there, but at any rate, so another game that you helped create for the PlayStation is a platformer called Mort the Chicken.
Mort the Chicken.
Yes.
Yes. My chicken.
And I'm wondering, what made you want to make a chicken-based platforming game?
There's a couple reasons. One is Mort the Chicken is it's like a kid story I used to tell my daughter. And the real backstory of Mort the Chicken is in second grade, you get to, if you're lucky, you have like a science-y teacher, you get to have an incubator to hatch chicken eggs. So Mort was hatched one day, and the kids throughout the school year learned how to read, and Mort paid attention, so he learned how to read. So really, Mort the Chicken is the first chicken in the world that knows how to read, and that's where he came from. But then he turned into this weird video game. What happened is the ability to look in 3D. So Mort the Chicken looks at everything very well. That's one thing that game does extremely well. The autonomous Mort the Chicken, not quite autonomous, but his head and where he looks is up to him, and he looks at things in three-dimensional space, and that's really why I loved the game and why I wanted to make a game with the chicken. And then everything kind of came after that. At E3 that year, when we were showing it, it got worst game of the year. No, worst game of E3. Worst. Thank you, everybody.
Was that an IGN award or something?
Yeah. No. I don't know, but everybody told me that. I don't know who actually said it or who wrote it.
Like, Because
I'm sure
Yeah.
it's Googleable.
possibly it's just like I know like E3 had like official best in show and all that.
Yeah, that
awards,
was
but
official worst.
nothing for the worst in show because that would
Hey,
probably
man.
I'm sure plenty of people did their own,
yeah.
or websites did their own, like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
magazines, as the case may be.
I'm totally cool with it because just the fact that the thing exists, like I feel like I got away with murder because it wanted to be killed so many times. It got like eviscerated budget wise. It was going to be a lot bigger, a lot more sophisticated. But anyway, I end just me just still loving Mort. I get a lot of kids hitting me up on Twitter. It's like, hey, we love Mort the Chicken. Can I put him in my game? I got it. I'm like, yeah, you can do it as long as I get to look at it before you show it. So I'll get a whole bunch of kids making little Mort the Chicken things. If I see a Roblox Mort the Chicken game, I am going to support the F out of that.
I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. Not all creators are that supportive, but
Well, it's Mort the Chicken,
Yeah.
Worst game of the year. What am I gonna do at this point?
like, I mean, any chance that more
baton to some kid that likes him? Come on, kid, make a good game with this chicken. You can do it.
Well, if Kale the Kangaroo can make a comeback.
Anyway, I love making games with animals. My next big game is going to be with horses. I'm going to make real horses. I'm going to make horses that when horse people see the horses, they're going to say, those are real horses. WTF. That's what they're going to say, these horse people. Not that you guys care. Because this will be
I am not a horse
years.
people, unfortunately.
Not yet.
I mean, I don't have the budget. I don't have the budget to be a horse
met
people.
Your horse yet.
Yeah, horses are expensive.
Not the ones I'll sell you.
Fair enough.
I'm like, digital horses, would be less of a cost investment.
Unless they only eat NFTs or something.
Easy to clean up after. Okay, guys, this was like the funnest fun I've had. I calculate all my past fun experiences. This is among the fun ones of the funnest.
That's good.
And it's good. Thank you. You're very kind to let me ramble on and on and on and on. You can edit the F out of me. I won't take it personally. And do anything you want.
We're too lazy for editing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Damn straight.
Get everybody has a Nintendo Switch. Please play Space War Arena. Space War Arena is the sequel to the very first video game that ever existed. Ever.
Space War.
Space War. And you know what's brilliant about that game? When they made that, the guy made that game, Steve something. Cool guy, old guy, older than me, God bless him. He made that game. It didn't even occur to him to have a single player game. Obviously, two people had to play. Two people had to play from day one. Games were never never intended to be single player. And I love that about it. I love that it didn't even, I'm like, I just want to fly my ship around the orbit and like shoot at like drones. Can we do that? No. You got to play against somebody else. It's like playing tennis by yourself. You can't do it.
Tennis for two.
Right. So it's just so nice. So that's I sequeled it. It's on Switch. It's only $5. I give you a bunch of free codes. I know you're lazy, but put it on the website for a second.
Well, Petty, did you get the giveaway set up?
I may have been a little enthralled with the discussion. I am working on that now.
We'll have we have a Discord. We have our giveaways there.
I'm learning Discord. Can I come over at your Discord and F with your people?
Sure.
I think you're in our Discord. Like,
Well,
I think you posted today.
God, I suck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you said
actually
hello.
posted it? I said hello. Oh,
Yeah.
that's because you gave me the Discord thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, I'll
So-
come say hello. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll have the giveaway going on for, let's say until Sunday.
Yeah.
So
If you need a couple hundred more of those codes, let me know. I'll give them to you.
Duly noted. But yeah, and hope maybe we'll have you back on the program at some point.
Anytime.
Yeah, because we didn't even get to the modern stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So
Nobody gives a shit about the modern stuff yet. Someday it's all going to be retro.
but I don't know.
I have a game called Pocket Rocks. Here's how it works: you get a rock on the screen. It's a mobile game. You get a rock, and you rub it with your thumb. And if you keep rubbing it, that little spot gets shiny. And then you could, with two fingers, rotate it around. And if you rub it for like hours or weeks at a time, you make a little gemstone. Pocket Rocks.
Well,
Pocket
if you're
Rocks on the iOS or Android.
right. Well, if you're game, we can have you back on the program, say June 14th.
Okay. Send
Right.
me an invite then.
Yeah.
Why
We'll
June
remind
14th? What's June 14th?
Yeah, that's a Wednesday. Be the same time.
Is that season? Is that episode 1 of the next season?
No, that's fairly deep into season 18.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll be your mid-season dude.
All right. But until then, take care. And it was certainly
Thanks, dude.
no problem. Not a problem. It's always good when we get a veteran of the video game industry on the program.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry the games are so hard. And
it was the 90s.
Sorry I spanked you guys 30 years ago.
And
I continue to do so. Sorry.
Anyway, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we are talking about Kirby's Adventure, mainly because it is the 30th anniversary of that particular title. And if you need help remembering which one in particular Kirby Adventure is, that is the NES game. And Kirby's Adventure, I feel, is really the game that defined Kirby. I know Kirby's Dream Land is first and, establish what Kirby is, but, Kirby's Adventure, that's the game that gave us the copy abilities, which is the second defining trait of Kirby's moveset. Can you really think
the first game just had the swallow and spit things out in the form of either what you rolled them as or stars, and then all the other stuff was provided by power-ups like a literal microphone and a sweet potato and or mint leaf that gives you a more powerful breath attack and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was functional, but really not that interesting. A mechanic, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's always been part and parcel of the Kirby series, but I don't think people can think of Kirby without the copy abilities. You'll get introduced if you actually play the first Kirby Dream Land, but ever since Kirby's Adventure, he's had the copy abilities in some form. Sometimes they've mixed up the formula, but they've always been there since that title. And Kirby's Adventure is kind of seen as the swan song of the NES.
Mhm.
It isn't by any means.
Yeah,
because
there are ones that came out later.
Yeah, there were games by Nintendo that came out in 1994. Like, maybe not in I don't like Star Tropics 2 never came out in Japan, but was certainly a Western release, and was a later title than Kirby's Adventure. But I think why people proclaim Kirby's Adventure to be the swan song of the 8-bit days for Nintendo is because it's the most advanced NES game that they ever put out. Okay, technically it's the second most advanced. Trying to remember, the most advanced is like either Joy Mech Fighter or some other Japanese game that I can't remember offhand. But like this is an NES game that's really big for an NES game. Like, it's 6 megabytes or something like that, which is just absolutely titanic for an NES game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and it's also got the memory mapper chip, which wasn't all that special by this point. It's like, truth be told, most NES games were using a memory mapper chip of some sort because, and we've talked about this before, what you could do with the stock NES hardware was actually a lot more limited than what you could do with the chip expansions. Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers, that is the final form of the stock NES hardware. And you look at that, and you look at games that came late in the NES's lifespan, and they're almost different systems. You look at Super Mario Brothers, and even farther back, Wrecking Crew and Ice Climbers, and you stack that up against Super Mario Brothers 3 and Kirby's Adventure, and all of that, the later Mega Man games and Battletoads, and they do seem like a different system. That's how that's how far things progressed on the NES.
I mean, I feel like there's actually a pretty strong delineation thing of there was the first generation of NES games, then there was the Famicom games, then there was the period where they tried to expand it with the disk system, and then there was the period where the second generation of Famicom games / NES games is really when they started they figured out how to fit so much more in cartridges that they went back to cartridges.
Yes. That's mainly due to the Famicom disk system doing okay, but here's the thing with the peripheral, it can only do okay numbers. Because not your entire base is going to buy the add-on. So they actually found the disk system audience to be limiting for profitability's sake. But the era we're talking about here is much later. Like, Kirby was never considered for a disc.
Right.
It would not have fit on a disc.
No, this is part of the actual the second generation of after they'd gone back to doing them on cartridges.
Yeah. Now, and Kirby's Adventure also established another tradition for Kirby that really only got broken with, I think, the Nintendo Switch. Although, give it some time, there'll probably be another 4 Kirby games announced for that system. But Kirby, Kirby being a late hitting mascot for Nintendo systems got its start here. And once again, like, you can see this through time. Like the Super NES, Kirby's Dream Land 3, Kirby 64 on the Nintendo 64, Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Nintendo Wii. Handheld systems is a different story. Kirby usually shows up a lot earlier. I know the Nintendo Switch is a hybrid system and all that stuff, but it's in the console field, technically speaking. But yeah, Kirby's Adventure was first going to be just Kirby's Dream Land. Nintendo was still supporting the NES, not just because it was still financially viable. There was still a huge install base, but it was because it was easy to program for at this point. Because by the time of Kirby's Adventure, the Famicom was 10 years old. And once again, the Famicom wasn't supposed to last 10 years. Wasn't really supposed to last 5 years. It was supposed to be like 2 years, and then the disc system would take over. The problem was, they didn't release the disc system as its own dedicated system, like say the SG-1000 to the Master System. Those are actually both dedicated systems on their own right. They're upgrades of the same family, but if you wanted to play Master System games, you had to own a Master System. And I don't recall if there was backwards compatibility with the SG-1000 there, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, Kirby's Adventure was, Nintendo wanted Kirby's Dream Land on the NES because, quick and dirty port, additional software, easy money, relatively speaking. But Masahiro Sakurai didn't want that. He wanted to expand Kirby. He wanted to establish Kirby, if you will. Because, and I will say Sakurai made the 100% right call, because Kirby's Dream Land on the NES wouldn't have been bad necessarily, but it would not have gone down well in the NES space. Because I think Nintendo kind of forgot that Kirby's Adventure was a Game Boy game and was birthed to be a Game Boy game. What I'm trying to say is Kirby's Dream Land is really short and easy, and that makes for a good Game Boy game. Not necessarily good for a NES game that you could complete in half an hour. So we got a much grander game out of it. Like 7 worlds, if I'm remembering correctly. The levels are longer. It's an adventure, if you will. Also worth noting, this is the first game to establish King Dedede as Kirby's more comic antagonist.
Yeah, as not the main villain.
Yeah. He'll still show up as the main villain in the spin-offs, but he gets regulated to secondary boss status in this game. And, that just keeps tumbling down till, he either becomes like an opening boss, or he's not a boss at all, or he's a playable character.
He's still pretty late in Adventure, but
yes.
It's ultimately a misunderstanding.
I'm not sure if we ever got a reason why why Sakurai or whoever made the call wanted to make Day not Kirby's Bowser, or insert eternal enemy here for video game character.
We'd much rather have Kirby fight Eldritch Horrors.
Yeah, this is also the beginning of that. Because this is the first Eldritch Horror that Kirby fights.
Now I forget, is this Dark Matter or is this Nightmare?
This is Nightmare. Dark Matter is later.
Right.
But yeah,
they may or may not secretly be related.
I don't think there's any actual relation, because it's not considered to be part of the Dark Matter trilogy.
Right.
Versus Dark Matter in 0-1.
No, I mean, like in whatever setting Bible they have that explains where that has the rules for like where the goddamn galactic novas come from and who built all the stuff or whatever. Maybe it's maybe it's like, and actually Nightmare and Dark Matter are different expressions of the same fragment, same form of an evil form of void, that whatever.
Mm-hmm. And it was a genuine surprise in Kirby's Adventure. Like, I think even by the end of the Dark Matter saga, we were kind of expecting the Eldritch Horror. Mm-hmm. But Kirby's Adventure, this is only game number 2.
And this is the one where go stop DDD. He stole the Star Rod. We shall recover the Star Rod and put it back in the fountain. Oh wait, the reason he took it out is because their Eldritch Horror in the fountain was going to come out, and that's bad. Better go beat it up.
And this is establishing the heroic side of King Day, like, which once again was rather inconsistent going forward for a bit of time, because they kept using Day as the villain for, say, Kirby's Dream Course.
And, I mean, he's still a little bit greedy and gluttonous and stuff, but he evidently really does care about the people of Dreamland.
Yeah, he became the series' Wario, for lack of a better analog. He's not a good role model, but he is at the very least, anti-heroic character. He's probably more heroic than Wario, but he's still got what we would consider negative character traits to his character.
Mm-hmm.
Also introduced in this game, Meta Knight.
Because you couldn't have Meta Knight before, because Kirby didn't have a way to use it to be demanded to use a sword to fight him.
Right. But, this is the game that maybe not establishes Meta Knight, but it certainly introduces Meta Knight. Like, I think further games really would more establish Meta Knight's rivalness.
I mean, he's a guy who looks kind of... He's the same shape as Kirby. He challenges you to a sword fight and insists that you use a sword against him. The ability to ignore it was added in remakes and later games. You actually have to in this one. And then when you beat him, his mask breaks in half and reveals that his face actually looks kind of like Kirby too.
Yeah, just kind of a dark Kirby. Yeah. Also worth noting is the amount of copy abilities in this game, because this being a late stage NES game as opposed to, say, a Game Boy game, they were able to stuff about 24 or so abilities, I think. Like they they made it up to like 40, but they couldn't fit that many in an NES cartridge.
Yeah, and
Hell, I
this is
think
the one. This is the one. This is the first one, but it's also the one that has arguably the most. They were this in this appearance, and in actually several appearances going forward. It's not until like Superstar that you start seeing the arguably more modern method. Every power does one very specific thing.
Right.
So there are like two different fire powers, one for breathing fire and one for charging forward in a fireball. Likewise for ice. There are like at least two, possibly three different grab an enemy and throw them powers.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. And then also there's ball, which is usually mostly seen after this as, Kirby's stuck in this form in the game. It's an excuse to use an alternate control method.
Right.
But you do also see a lot of classic ones like Beam and the microphone power-up as an actual power-up, and Crash and Cutter.
Mm-hmm. And they do their iconic things.
Mm-hmm. Like there's Hammer, and there are things that only Hammer can knock down, and maybe Stone, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
There is UFO, and it is very overpowered, except for the fact that it can't go down through pass-throughable platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Or possibly up either. It's basically they gate it off. You can only use it in certain areas because of that.
And I think it was later games that would establish the kind of core Kirby power set. You know, Cutter, Needle, Fire, Ice.
Most of those are in this, but then there are also like other things. The Dark Matter trilogy, also known as the ones with all the animal helpers, reduced the number a lot, but instead of having like fire and burning as separate things, it would be like Kirby's basic fire, Kirby's fire while riding Rick, and Kirby's fire while riding Koo.
Mm-hmm. Also worth noting for Kirby's Adventure, this is the game that made Kirby pink.
Yep, previously he was white even on some of the box arts.
Yep. Now, apparently
there had been some debates among the creative team about whether he should be pink or yellow or what.
Or white.
And that's why Yellow Kirby has a separate name. It's Kibi.
Yeah. Kibi got his name in Kirby's Dream Course, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, but the reason why Yellow Kirby has his own name and Blue and Red Kirby's don't is because.
Yeah. And White Kirby was just because Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like
in game he was technically kind of a yellowy green.
Yeah.
But that's hardware reasons.
Yeah. And Nintendo of America just didn't get the memo about the color scheme. Like, literally, they did not know until Kirby's Adventure. And late in the game, because Kirby's Adventures box art, NES box art, he has the white Kirby. He is, however, happy Kirby.
Yeah, they didn't start making him angry until a little bit later on.
Which is a good segue into the remake. Because Kirby's Adventure got a remake on the Game Boy Advance.
Unlike Kirby's Dream Land, which has been remade like 7 times.
Yeah, Kirby's Dream Land was technically remade in Kirby Superstar.
Yep.
Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland is the 2002 Game Boy Advance remake, which is smack dab in prime Kirby Angry Eyes for the North American box art territory.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific territory, but territory nonetheless. Also, I think that's when Kirby's Right Back at You was going on.
It is, and the friggin' cover of Nightmare in Dreamland uses art from the anime.
Yeah,
in the U.S.
Yeah.
That anime is an interesting take on Kirby.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if this is like the actual first proper Kirby remake. I also wonder if Naka's going to do this.
Well, he said he's doing all the Kirbys. Presumably that means all of them, at least all the ones he hasn't done yet.
Yeah. I guess we find out soon enough. This might have been the first proper remake, proper, not part of a package or what have you kind of remake of a proper Kirby game. I know there's some people who like, oh, but what about Superstar Sacker? That's a spin-off. And could also conceivably be called a sequel. If you're feeling that fucking pedantic. But yeah, Kirby's Dream Land, updated the graphics. Trying to remember what, I think this had a playable Meta Knight as well, or I'm trying to remember if Meta Nightmare was in this, or if
I believe
Kirby's...
that's literally what the Nightmare is referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has Meta Nightmare, which is the first instance of the play through the game again with a different character, usually Meta Knight, once it was DDD. That unfortunately they always make it into a speed run, which I get, but also that means if you want to quote unquote score good, there's not really a whole lot of reason to interact with a lot of the cool puzzle rooms and stuff.
Yeah. I'm also trying to remember if this established the ultra super special secret boss with chocolate sauce, or if that was Kirby's Superstar Ultra.
I think it was Superstar Ultra.
Yeah.
Because Superstar Ultra was the one. I don't know. This does have an arena and boss endurance, but I think those are only the actual monsters in the game.
Yeah, I think that might have been.
I'm pretty sure Mark Soul is the first Soul boss, or no, Wham Bam Rock and Mark Soul are the. Excuse me, Wham Bam Jewel and Mark Soul are the first.
Yeah.
And wait, where's Galactonite? Was Galactonite in Superstar Ultra? Yes, it was. He's the final boss of Meta Nightmare Deluxe or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that. That's all Kirby Superstar Ultra. There's a lot in that. A lot more than I remember in Kirby Superstar Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Meta Nightmare was the big new thing in Kirby's Nightmare into Dreamland. But there were more minor things, like apparently hidden entrances were easier to find and boss fights were more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess for a Kirby game, Kirby games aren't really renowned for their difficulty, at least not until you get to the very end or the arena.
Yeah, usually Kirby games are very easy to get to the original ending of. But then they have really hard post-game challenges.
But Kirby's Adventure, at least the NES one, that's still in the, Kirby is an easy game for babies era, let's say. Or Nintendo definitely viewed Kirby as an entry-level platformer. That's why it's the anti-Nintendo hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Kirby's Adventure is definitely more difficult than the Dreamland games, at least the Game Boy ones. But it's still, compared to, say, Super Mario Brothers 3, it's a lot easier. And if you do want to experience Kirby's Adventure, well, it's been on the Nintendo Switch Online service for a few years now. And presumably Nintendo will bring Nightmare into Dreamland. I don't think Nintendo is going to be satiated until every single Kirby game ever released is available for the Nintendo Switch in some form. And possibly to please Auntie.
It was probably part of the blood sacrifice they had to make for Sakurai to do Smash Ultimate.
I'm like, but who knows when that's going to come? Only Nintendo does.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll, it's like, we'll know when it's like a day before release. Although I don't think they've gotten through all of the initial batch of announced Game Boy Advance titles yet. And yeah, that's Nightmare in Dreamland. And yeah, that is our final episode of season 17 of Fragments of Silicon. I know this one went long because we had the space, and like I said, industry legends interviews tend to go this way. I think I can call Ed an industry legend of some sort, given his resume.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I didn't. That's one of the fun things about the job. About this job, like I get to talk to the creator of Echo the Dolphin.
Yep. Sometimes you get to do neat things.
Yep. Anyway, so yeah, we will be off for 3 weeks. Moonhawk Studios Presents is going to be off for the same amount of time. And we will be coming back, let me see, the week of April 26th. With Fragments of Silicon, we'll be returning with our usual Sunday reviews. MSP will return that Wednesday. And I did catch a bit of Mac's stream last night, and apparently he's planning to bringing back Up Late with Mace after MSP. Well,
he's getting a VTube model to do it with.
I will probably have passed out long before Up Late with Mace starts.
I'm like, I don't think any of us are.
He doesn't expect any of us to be there for it, from what he's told, from what I've heard. So,
yeah. Look, we already do 2 shows on a Wednesday. I don't feel like doing a third one on a Wednesday. So I'm going to take a pass on that if it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's the season. I look forward to season 18 and all of the adventures that are contained within that. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.